Hi, and welcome to the continuing series of online documents for my Music Hum Section 24 class. I'm Brad. This is going to be for Thursday, April the 16th. And we're going to cover a number of composers. I'll have a few videos up for you to take a look at. Again, I'll try to keep each one a little small. Now, we've been kind of looking at two different threads that were happening in the 20th century, the kind of the experimentalism, avant-garde thread, and the serialism academic kind of thread. And I don't mean to imply that this is all that was happening. I mean, quite a bit was going on in music. In fact, that's what makes this period kind of interesting. Well, partly because we're so close to it still. We haven't had the funnel of history. I wonder what the avant-garde music of Mozart's time sounded like. Anyhow, but we're going to follow up some kind of offshoots of those threads and in the next couple of classes. And one in particular we're going to talk about today became fairly important in the mid to late 20th century called minimalism. And the composers that were involved in this hated that title, but they all kind of agree, well, that's probably appropriate. It reflected the kind of the minimalist movement in art that was happening at the time. Really pare down your materials, work with something, very, very focused. And kind of there's a perceptual, almost a spiritual aspect to it too. You focus on these things and you internalize what's happening. But you'll hear that in this music, and let me just kind of jump right into it. The composer was considered kind of the godfather of minimalism. Was somebody we've already encountered before, LaMonte Young, and we encountered him back in when we were talking about the avant-garde, the Fluxus movement. He was the famous feed a bale of hay to a piano guy. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about his background and kind of what led him away from Fluxus towards his minimal works that he's doing now. He was born in 1935, still alive today, in a small town called Bern, Idaho, out in the middle of nowhere. His parents were very devout Latter-day Saints, and he was brought up in a very strict household. But he soon left for a different kind of environment. He went to school at UCLA and became very involved in the jazz scene there. He was a very talented sax player, and he then fell from the jazz scene into kind of dealing with new music composition and was really intrigued by the music that radical new composers, especially in academia, were doing. Went to UC Berkeley, and from there he went to they had a big festival in Germany called Darmstadt. They still have it today, where there's a lot of very serious kind of formalistic music that's being discussed, and very strong kind of political overtones. And he really enjoyed it. He even met a guy named Karlheinz Stockhausen. We're going to talk about Karlheinz when we start talking about electronic music, and became very enamored of the 12-tone system. Imagine the feeding the piano straw guy with the 12-tone system. But then he happened to meet John Cage, and it was a life-changing event for him. Cage really kind of, showed him different ways of thinking about music, ways that resonated with his kind of spiritual background. And he followed Cage and moved to New York, where he made his home for the rest of his life, still there today. And that's where he got involved with the Fluxus movement. But in 1962, he met a guy who had come to New York for a visit, Pandit Pran Nath. And he had a profound influence on minimalism in general, through LaMonte Young and through another guy we're going to talk about in a bit, Terry Riley. Pandit Pran Nath was a Pakistani classical singer who specialized in very, very slow music. And LaMonte Young, when he heard this, when he started working with this singer and began to appreciate what the singer was after, what Pandit Pran Nath was after in terms of, his musical utterances, just became totally enamored and enraptured and completely changed the way he thought about music. And it's funny because he thinks about music as, again, connecting to his childhood. He said one of the most profound musical experiences that he recalls was listening to an electrical transformer all night long, kind of making that weird buzzing sound that you hear sometimes from these things. And he started fashioning music like that. He created this thing that he called the Theater of Eternal Music. And basically, he started writing compositions that were intended to last years with, chord movements, once every several months or so. So again, this is what people would term minimal music. And I'm just going to play you a little bit again, this has to be an excerpt from one of his pieces. And it's got this great title, okay? The Second Dream of the Step-Down, High-Tension Line Step-Down Transformer. So this is from his Theater for Eternal Music. I'll start it up and you can give it a listen. Okay, now I'm going to run it ahead a little bit. This is about 30 seconds into the piece. And I'll run it ahead a little bit more. This is about 50 seconds. I said seconds, I meant minutes. Okay, 50 minutes into the piece. And this is a little bit over an hour into the piece, and they could only fit an hour and 16 minutes onto a CD when this was released. So you can hear this is actually made for performers. And again, they're very, very long pieces. Usually performance isn't going to last for months, but it will, take place over 12 hours or something. He formed an ensemble called the Forever Blues Band, which consists of people that could play this sort of music and were kind of in sync with what he was trying to do. But the thing that he's done that's his probably most lasting monument is he established a foundation with his wife, Marian Zazila. She was a visual artist that did a lot of work with light. And they have this place called the Dream House. It's sponsored by the Mila Foundation, which is his kind of fundraising arm. And you can actually go there today. It's at 275 Church Street. And basically, it's electronic, so it can go on, and it instantiates his pieces that are intended to last for years. And in fact, it has been going for years. It's a remarkable experience. If you really want to have a very uncommon evening, go online. I'll put the link on the website, and make a reservation to go down there. It's free, and just experience this thing, because it's not like anything else that you're going to find much in New York. So we're going to talk about Terry Riley in the next video, and see you then.